We're off mute. So we're going to start. So I'm going to call to order the Tech Committee of the Ulster County Transportation Council for October 26th. I'm just going to do a quick roll call. And it's who's in the room, and then we'll go to who's online, and then we'll go to guests in the room. Is that okay? So who's in the room? My name's Dennis Doyle. I'm the director of the Transportation Council.
David Stoss with the Ulster County Transportation Council.
Brian Slack, Ulster County Transportation Council.
Sandy Johnson with New York State Department of Transportation.
And Pine, Ulster County DPW.
And I'm going to ask Dave to read the people that are online.
So on the line, we have Shelley Johnston.
Good morning.
Good morning. We have Alex Wade, Amy McKenzie, Alan Sorensen, Cheryl Snyder, Chris Kate, Chris Hannett, Harriet Lewis, Larry Thornton, Lauren Bennett, Mike Baden, and Phil Erner. And then I do have one iPhone that's been as Manny. I'm not too sure who that is. And then in the room, or did I miss anyone from the line?
It's not Larry, it's Leanne.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Here you go. Thank you. And in the room, please.
I'll review the Kings Highway and Service. Lorna Ross, Town of Oliver.
Laura Petit, Town of Service, and Chair of Public Works, Capital Projects and Transportation.
And did somebody else join us online?
And then Ella joined us online as well.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. I'll have a call for citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments in the room? Barbara?
I have been attending these meetings to see if we can push along the traffic study on the Kings Highway corridor concerning both the rail and the highway. And I just want to bring you up a little bit more up to date. There has been a grant secured for a distribution center on Kings Highway, right in front of one of those 11 private drives that are coming out. And it's going to put a whole lot more trucks and a whole lot more traffic on that highway. I have no idea what kind of restrictions or studies that those people have to do, but perhaps we can piggyback with them and at least get something working there. That highway is becoming more industrial, the way it was supposed to be. But now the infrastructure here really needs to go with that. And I would appreciate any attention you can give it. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Anyone else in the room?
Hi, my name is Lorna Ross, and I recently started using UCTC, which is the Ulster County, which is the bus lanes. And I've never seen anything so incompetent, badly done, and managed. I'm appalled. It is like a flying car where the wheels come off. I used to think the New York City transit system was bad until I started using UCTC in the last 2 months. I believe that UCAT is understaffed. I believe that I suspect it has crossed my mind that there are moves to privatize the system. I think that it is a question of economic development. Oh my God. If you want economic development, if you want people to be able to work here, then you need to be able to get around. They can't do that with the system that exists today. I needed to go to Mother Earth from downtown Kingston to pick up some magnesium. It took me 2.5 hours between the bus to Hannaford's, and then from Hannaford's on that mall route. How do you expect people to work? How do you expect people to get things done if it takes 2.5 hours to get a bottle of magnesium at Mother Earth? I mean, this is insane. You have very upset employees. You have upset people who rely on this to take the bus system. I mean, If you want environmental justice, people need to be able to take a public transit system instead of drive their cars to get a slice of cheese. I mean, I don't know where the money's going, but I know it's not going to the transit system, that much I know. And from what I understand, you've done or not you, sorry, somebody at UCAT did something so that now we can't hire more people, more drivers for the next 8 months. I'm not exactly sure of the details, so I can't swear to it, but what kind of nonsense is it? I mean, who's running this show at UCAT? I'm shocked at the inefficiency and you're all over efficiency. I don't know what else to say. I do believe that you need to hire more people immediately. I believe that you need route optimization software. I don't know what you're using to do routes. I'm sorry, but whatever it is, it's not working. I believe, you have to pay proper salaries if you're going to get people, because I believe that the salaries are something in the 20 something starting in an hour. And I believe that private companies are paying more than $30 an hour. So, you have to be competitive. Again, all of the goals here are economic justice, so to economic development, and environmental justice. And, if you don't want people dealing with drugs, you need to let them have jobs that are going to pay something. That's why you have a mess, social mess, because the money's going into the hands of billionaires and millionaires instead of going to all the people. We need to think about all the people, not just campaign donors. I realize that maybe you sitting at this table are not getting huge campaign donations, but you have got to fight for us, all the people. Okay, sorry, rant over, but I've just never seen anything so absurd in my life as this system.
Thank you, Laura. Any other comments from in the room?
I have a comment on two different things. Tanya, Robert, speaking to, we are seeing an influx of people from New York City and failing miserably at this opportunity to get more ridership. It is a huge, great thing to have the bus system be fare free. The idea that people can jump on, can jump off, and test it out is really big. The money that's budgeted to optimization software and advertising the free system is really important. However, we can't lose sight of just the amount of mess that we has been for a very long time. Even before the transit integration, and City of Kingston is suffering from the transit integration. It had some really good promises, and UCAT has not fulfilled any of those. The pandemic aside, they're not. I mean, I honestly feel like the public transportation system should have stepped up and been better than it was, and not just using them as an excuse for what they did. But we're at a point now where we're back in the City of Kingston to two breaks during the day, which is one of the things that we're supposed to get rid of. We're at 1 hour lead time. We say early on, we gave up the idea of going to the half-hour lead times. So we have done what I feared at the beginning, which is we've become part of a rural system in the City of Kingston and public transportation system. And now we're in a position where we've got people who are trained at rough riding public transportation moving in and wishing not to own a car, and they must own a car to get most of their needs done in the City of Kingston. So I hope that and also this, there's really some real management problems, and there's really the goals. I mean, really, there should be looking at people like Nelson Nygaard, 2012 study, good planners. And here we are. I'm worried at the risk that we're going to have Laura Johnson be the planner for UCAT, and I think that would be a big mistake. He doesn't have a lot of experience with the overall population planning for public transportation. He's very focused on certain population planning, their transportation system, bus systems for school, bus systems for supported housing, stuff like that. I'm glad that we finally do have somebody who has some experience though with transit. So that is a good thing. I'm not proposing that we fire line Laura Johnson, but we UCAT absolutely needs one person at UCAT who oversees all the communication. This change that was put together last minute, 2 weeks, Tony Roger has to reroute everything so that people can work less hours. And then she's also supposed to just like give out the information. She's never been with it. And that's not supposed to be her job. We need one person who makes sure that there's signage at buses, the Kingston Plaza, the bulletin board is updated. We have the ability to have at least print your own things from the website as changes happen. I understand maybe they don't want to change out all the printed maps unless there's more than 10 minutes lead time to go on the. We have the very basic are not covered, and it really is because it's not coordinated. The dispatch isn't even updated regularly on what the riders are seeing. It's such an other thorough mess in terms of communication. Why do we not have one person who's calling IT and letting them know that updates is needed? Then, so anyway, I hope to talk to you all about that more over the next meetings that I come to. But I wanted to also just say, what is the update with the Route 9W corridor management plan? Brian gave an introduction of it at a springtime
Thanks, Tanya.
Governor Transportation Safety Board meeting, and it sounded to me like it was mainly focused on level of service for vehicular traffic. I hope that can be, so I know that it's an answer to a congestion for vehicle traffic needs, but really, and I understand that the town of Ulster strip malls is the worst kind of planning in terms of it's not really ever meant for people to be out of their own car. It can never support a bus system. The loop is going to do this amazing subsidization to get people around this car-centric individual traffic place. But
Thanks,
really,
Tanya.
I mean, we're required to work here. So anyway, I hope.
Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll update the projects at the end of this meeting. There's a project
and I
update
really
on the
hope that
agenda.
it has a robust public engagement from the beginning. I know that the kickoff meeting was in August. We haven't heard anything since. I think the beginning is the most important time to engage the public.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Legislator Petit?
Thank you. I just have an ask. I've seen, some funding opportunities come up for, oh my goodness, it just went out of my head. Thriving communities, I'm
Mhm.
sorry. And I don't know if that would be an old or a new business, but, you know, I'm interested in having Sophie put in a letter of interest, which is due December 6th, and I'd like to be able to get more information to them. And it does involve transportation and more.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And I think we're through with comments in the room. Comments online?
Yes, we do have, at least Cheryl had raised their hand. If there's anyone else that's, I'm gonna ask her to unmute. Let's see here.
Hi, everybody. I think it's unfortunate that citizens have to come to the Ulster County Transportation Council to voice concerns about a public transit system that you guys oversee but don't operate day to day. The reason why we're here is because there is no channel of honest and truthful communication coming from UCAT itself. We have tried for many, many, many months. So we're here now. But I want to say, I think some other people spoke to some of the frustrations and inequities in the system pretty well. And I just want to say, putting on my business operations hat, somebody who's put in many, many projects, not transit projects, but technology projects. If I wanted to destroy a company, really piss off their employees and destabilize what they do, I would implement significant changes, multiple significant changes on the very same day. Because it would be a guarantee that everything would fall apart. And then I would have a justification for like outsourcing my IT or whatever. I think that UCAT is setting up a situation where they're going to justify outsourcing and privatizing the system because nobody in their right mind who's competent, who has ever done any kind of project that is a change project, knows very well you don't implement all significant three things. So for people who are unaware, the ridership rides for free was implemented on the very same day that UCAT changed all the drivers' routes that they were forced to bid upon. The drivers used to own routes. Now they own time slots, which means the system is being destabilized. It is putting both the riding public and the pedestrian and driving public at risk, because you have drivers who are being swapped from one route in the morning to another route at night if necessary. They're put on routes they don't know. They don't know the people who ride the buses. They don't know where the pull-offs are too short or too long and where you have to, they don't know the intersections. This is very destabilizing. And then at the very same time, on top of that, there were 3 major changes. Oh, they changed the routes without putting out any advertising, without letting anyone else know. They started changing routes. So we had about a week of people not being able to get to work on time, people not being able to get to mandated appointments on time, people not being able to get home for their children on time, and it's still going on. And you can't, and we have a serious problem at UCAT, and you guys are oversight on some level. So I am gonna put this, not put it in your lap, but say that we have to fix this system. We have to do it now, and we can't wait. We are in a critical crisis. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cheryl. Any other comments online?
We got a request from Phil Erner. I'm going to ask him to unmute. There you go.
Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity. I want to echo the comments that have been made so far, and recognizing again that UCTC is mostly an appropriating body with respect to, for example, public transportation in Ulster County. I would love to gain some insight from you as a county legislator about policy that I could implement to go along with whatever appropriations you are making that could help improve the situation for public transportation in the county. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Anything else online? Anybody else online?
See no additional requests.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to the approval of the August 23rd, 2022 Technical Committee meeting summary. Do I have a motion for approval? Thank you, Mr. Pine. Do I have a second? Do I have a second from anybody online?
Second.
Who was that?
I think that was Leanne.
Leanne, second?
Yes.
Thank you, Leanne. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Rather than ask all in favor, given the number of people we have lined, is anybody opposed? Hearing none, it's so carried. Thank you very much. Communications and announcements, Brian?
I'd just like to mention, when legislator mentioned the Thriving Communities program, I did recently provide an update to the UCTC webpage. There's a tab for funding opportunities in the upper left-hand corner. That became very difficult to manage, considering the relatively good news that we've had quite a few new funding opportunities come up. So if you go to that tab, it now links directly to the Federal Highway Administration, or rather to the U.S. Department of Transportation. And they have an updated link to provide the latest information on programs related to transportation and the bipartisan infrastructure law. That is the most recent and up-to-date information you'll find on new programs. So I'd encourage members to take a look at that. Otherwise, we also do receive routine updates from our partners at the Federal Highway Administration. I do not share all those updates directly with our full email list because not all of it is directly relevant to municipalities or to our partners. But we will take a closer look at some of those updates, particularly with regard to information for new programs, and try to forward that out to our members. Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Any other updates, Brian? The communications and announcements, let me put it that way.
None come to mind at this time. We did do a minor update to the Transportation Improvement Program, adding 2 new projects to an existing PIN. Those were at section 5310 FTA funds that's funding for capital and operations for people with elderly and people with disabilities. There are 2 awards that were distributed based on applications that our office and the New York State DOT received. One was for RUPCO for the purchase of 2 motor vehicle buses, small buses, to provide transportation for their clients. And the other was to Ulster Green ARC to provide 3 small buses to provide services for their clients. Those projects have been added to the transportation improvement program.
Thank you, Brian. Any updates from members of the council? Any updates from anybody online? Okay. On item 5 on the agenda, new business, draft UCT resolution number 2022-17, distribution of federal fiscal year 2022 Federal Transit Administration, section 5307, 5340, urbanized area apportionments attributable to the Kingston urbanized area. I have a motion for discussion. Mr. Pine, do I have a second? Somebody online?
And if it's from the line, we ask that you raise your hand. Yeah, thanks, Leanne.
Do I have a motion and a second? Discussion, Brian?
Yes, those of you who were in attendance during the previous 2 tech policy meetings may recall that we had a flurry of transit dollars being made available to designated recipients in Ulster County. This is the final update and appropriation or apportionment rather of funds that have not yet been appropriated. So at with the passage of this resolution, we will be fully up to date with all of our federal dollars available for distribution in Ulster County. Resolution 2022-17 makes funding available to designated recipients operating in the Kingston urbanized area. These are 5307 formula funds attributable to the Kingston urbanized area for federal fiscal year 22. If you direct your attention to page 3, table 1 shows the amounts apportioned to small urbanized areas across New York State. The Kingston, New York urbanized area generated $1,299,525. Given that Ulster County and Ulster County Area Transit is the only designated recipient in Ulster County to receive public transportation funds, 100% of those funds will be made available to Ulster County.
Any questions or discussions from members? Anybody online?
See no hands raised.
Okay, rather than ask for. Herb, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Nope.
Okay. Rather than ask for in favor, given the number of people we have online, I'm going to ask if there's anyone opposed. Hearing no opposition, the resolution is carried and will be presented to the policy committee. Thank you. Item B, draft resolution 2022-18, support for New York State Department of Transportation, otherwise known as NYSDOT, targets for safety and performance measures. Do I have a motion for discussion purposes? Mr. Pine, thank you very much. Do I have someone online?
Thank you, Leanne.
I have Leanne. I have a motion and a second for discussion purposes. Any discussion? Brian, if you don't mind, ma'am, we had public comment.
Yes, the resolution 22-18 support for New York State Department of Transportation targets is this is the 5th year that we are providing this this update to the safety performance measure. Safety performance targets were required to be adopted by NPOs throughout the United States after MAP 21, which was a previous iteration of a Federal Surface Authorization Act. Under MAP 21, NPOs were required to do what is called performance measurement and management. And the safety performance measure is one measure that is required to be updated on an annual basis. The majority of those performance measures only needed to be updated once at one time. But this measure is updated on an annual basis based on a rolling safety target as defined by Congress through the Authorization Act. The safety performance measure final rule establishes 5 performance measures as a 5-year rolling average. So these performance measures include measuring statewide the number of fatalities, rate of fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, number of serious injuries, rate of serious injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, and the number of non-motorized fatalities and non-motorized serious injuries. If I could direct your attention to the fact sheet that is mostly blue. This has the most easily discernible explanation of the methodology used to establish the performance measures and targets. I already outlined the performance measures, the 5 different measures that are used. MPOs throughout the United States have the option of either establishing their own performance measures or targets, or essentially agreeing to work with the New York State Department of Transportation's target. This MPO, along with all other MPOs statewide, have always agreed to plan and program projects that contribute to accomplishing this on the statewide level. So we're using New York State DOT's target with regard to the safety performance measure. So on an annual basis, roughly in July or August, the Governor's Traffic Safety Committee updates and reports targets through the Highway Safety Program. And NISDOT establishes those safety targets on an official basis through the Highway Safety Improvement Program annual report. And then those targets are provided to the MPOs, and we have the option to approve them or set our own. And so this resolution does identify and utilize the New York State DOT safety targets. So the process for the targets, we're allowed to set a 5-year rolling average. So as each iterative year progresses, we drop out the oldest year and add on the newest year for which data is available. So that creates a 5-year rolling average. And the charts on the fact sheet do a good job of illustrating this. So based on those 5-year rolling averages, step 1, we essentially, when I say we, I mean our partners in New York State DOT primarily, set a target based on that 5-year rolling average. And in this instance, our targets for looking out to 2023 are setting essentially a slight decrease, predicting a slight decrease across the board, across all measures. The way the rule is written, however, considering there can be significant jumps in trends year to year, MPOs are only, and the state are only required to have a 1% decrease. So there's a cap on what that target needs to be. So as you'll note on the charts, step 2 shows the rounded cap percent of 1%, which is sets the official target for 2023. David, have I left anything out at this point based on this explanation?
I think you did a great job.
Thank you. So therefore, the resolution will allow the MPO to agree to New York State DOT safety performance targets, and will keep the MPO in compliance with the performance measurement.
And I think that's the key here. Without this, we're not in compliance with the federal rules. So that's when we need some measure of safety performance, and the state program offers that opportunity. Any discussion from council members? Hearing none. Am I correct in hearing none?
Nothing from online either.
Okay. So any opposed? Okay, so carried. Item C, thank you. Draft resolution of 2022-19, amendment to the state fiscal year 2022-2023 Unified Planning Work Program to amend existing planning projects, and this is directly related to the Kingston Rail Safety Program in terms of its cost. I have a motion for discussion. Mr. Pine, do I have a second online?
Thank you, Leanne.
Leanne, so I have a motion, discussion, a motion and a second, discussion, Ryan.
Yeah, let me first apologize and point out there are several errors on this draft resolution. I'm gonna run through them right now. The first error is on page 2. If you look at the table and it shows project number 44.21.06, that is incorrect. That's a copy paste error. This resolution has nothing to do with our website development project. This resolution is definitely regarding a change in the Unified Planning Work Program to the City of Kingston Rail Safety Program. The costs shown in the table are correct. So we did a competitive solicitation to do a railroad safety study focusing on the City of Kingston, looking at primarily our 6 at-grade public crossings, and also looking at
Trespass.
solutions for trespass, to prevent trespass along the West Shore Railroad, CSX Railroad in the City of Kingston. We originally budgeted $65,000 available for consultant procurement. The cost that came in for our preferred consultant, which is WSP, did exceed those dollars available. And the costs associated with that proposal were negotiated to $149,215. There's a significant amount of data analysis required, as well as working with, I should say, engineers that are really at the top of their class nationwide for railroad safety. So we'll look very forward to initiating this project if this amendment is able to be made. The next error is on page 3. If you look at the top, it's a draft resolution 20.
Is this a Monday morning kind of thing?
Yeah, it is. I will note that I do provide this agenda packet to staff for review prior to publishing. So anyways,
We caught them after they printed.
yeah, this is indeed draft resolution 22-19. So I apologize for those errors at the top and bottom headers.
So having gone through the errors, what's it about?
So on attachment 2, we are looking to provide funding. Ulster County Area Transit has approached the NPO going back a month or so back to request planning funds to provide assistance to do what is essentially a transit network assessment and route optimization study. The project description is correct and included under project number 44.27.07. The NPO through this year's Unified Planning Work Program had originally budgeted $40,000 to do a micro-mobility assessment for the county. I think as most people are aware, we did partner with VIA Transit Solutions through a New York State NYSERDA pond to do a micro-mobility study. At this point in time, I think we've learned as much as we would regarding micro-mobility deployment through that initial planning process. Therefore, we never needed to use our Unified Planning Work Program budget toward that effort. That was a NYSERDA funded effort, planning effort. So we've decided to amend this existing micro-mobility assessment to add additional funds. $133,500 would be made available up to that amount of money for consultant procurement. We will be issuing a competitive RFP to identify firms that are capable of providing the services as described under the project description. That scope of work is presently in development. I have forwarded a draft to the Director of Public Transit, Lauren Johnson, to review.
So is there anything else, Brian?
There's just one last thing I'd like to draw your attention to, attachment 3 at the bottom of page 3. We will be drawing from our unprogrammed balances to pay for these cost increases if approved. The first project as described, which is the railroad safety study, will draw from our federal highway unprogrammed balance, which will, if approved, draw that down to $204,061, which still remain in savings. And for the route optimization effort, we will draw from our FTA planning funds. The unprogrammed balance presently is $79,255. We would use 100% of that unprogrammed balance, which would draw it down to zero. I should note that we typically keep our FTA funds strictly for planning purposes, and we do not typically bill staffing hours to FTA, at least not significant staff hours. So a balance of zero is really not a significant issue in my estimation for the FTA side of things.
So
And just one last point, if I may, Dennis. Amendments to the Unified Planning Work Program are required when costs or increase 25% or more of the existing program, or the project description changes significantly. Therefore, a full amendment of the UPWP is required in these instances.
thank you. So to summarize, we have two amendments of the UPWP, one for a rail safety program, which increases cost, and one for a route optimization, which is also an increase in cost. Is that correct?
That's right.
All right. Any comments? Ed, I'm sorry.
On the rail, is that strictly at the crossing?
No.
No, we'll look at the entire corridor
Yeah.
in the city of Kingston.
One of the reasons that we scheduled this was there's been some work on the crossings within the city already, particularly on Flatbush Avenue. We're looking at the number of fatalities that have occurred, quite frankly, away from the crossing, and the number of trespass locations that's visible on the crossing itself. So we're trying to get a handle on those more than anything else.
We will also be updating elements of the original quiet zone study that was
Yeah.
done in the early 2000s to see if there are any improvements or additions we could make to those recommendations.
Okay. Any questions from anybody online or comments? From
Uh,
council members? Hearing none. Any opposed? Hearing none, so carried. Thank you. That was item D. Under item 6, other old.
No,
business.
no, that was
Or
item
C.
C.
I'm
We have
sorry, I'm
item
on
C.
under D. Yep, you're right. I can. Unified Planning Work Program, call for new planning projects. Brian, you have a presentation, right?
Well, I didn't have time to prepare a full presentation, so this is more of a announcement than a presentation. And I can make more information available to members as needed. But every year at this time, we ask our members of the UCTC to think about any planning, transportation planning needs they may require, or have in mind either locally or at the county level, or even at the regional level for that matter. The Unified Planning Work Program makes funding available for planning studies of a variety of sorts. And it can allow us to do any type of deep dive into transportation planning issues. Some of the major areas of focus that we can look at are bicycle, pedestrian, and complete streets issues, circulation, street connectivity or access management plans, parking management plans. We've done signage and wayfinding planning.
Congestion management.
Yes, traffic calming, road diet implementation. Resiliency planning is an effort that's been underway, and we look forward to providing greater presentation on the results of that study soon. Local freight analysis, obviously, public transportation plans, mobility management and micromobility have been a major focus area, nationwide, and that's something that we, can look into in greater detail. As well as transportation and land use coordination plans, area corridor or site-specific plans. There's any variety of mechanisms and planning efforts that we can make available as needed. I will say that we have something of a backlog of planning projects that are currently programmed on a unified planning work program that we hope to get to during the next 6 to 12 months. We announced 2 projects that we're amending to increase funding for, and those will be hopefully underway by early next year, if not a little sooner. And the Transportation Council has also embarked upon doing a full update to its website. And that RFP will be issued very shortly as well. So we're busy. We have, not only do we do these elective studies, but we have a lot of core responsibilities that we're responsible for as well with regard to the transportation management area. But we do have the capacity to take on more work as needed, especially if they're for specific issues or needs.
So,
Forward.
thank you, Brian. So just a quick question in terms of timeframes. A and B is I just want to note the fact that these studies have to be in accordance with the goals and objectives within the long-range transportation plan.
That's right. So we will provide the application form. It will be made available later this week. We'll do an announcement through our mailing list.
Website, right?
Yeah, and it's available for download on the website. It is a relatively straightforward application process, and that's the way I've designed it.
And you need a municipal sponsor.
You do need a municipal sponsor. Any municipality within any of the 25 municipalities, villages, towns, or city, or the county itself, must be a sponsor of the proposal. That's to ensure that we have municipal buy-in for whatever is being proposed. The deadline is later in December. I'm just searching for the date. It's usually the end of the second week in December. I know it's in here. I checked the calendar. I apologize. It's escaping me at the moment, but it is written in here somewhere. But it's, I think, the second Friday in December is the deadline for application. December 9th. Thank you.
So, and we'll have an email going out with a call for projects. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Correct.
And that also includes our other partners, including the Thruway and NISDOT can also ask us to do different studies as well. And in the past, I would tell you that Ulster County Transportation Council has focused on studies that lead to projects. The examples I would give you is the City of Kingston Broadway effort, the roundabout effort, the City of Kingston, and we're currently in design with respect to improvements for rail safety in Boyce's Lane in the town of Ulster. And there's some others out there as well, including our trail projects that the money that we just got from a TAP grant was a result of a feasibility study for the Shandaken area and the Shandaken Trail. So we'd like to focus on studies that will sort of set communities up to get funding for particular transportation or transit needs. Thank you. Any questions on that?
I'd strongly urge, if there's a municipality or member that has a project in mind, just please reach out to me and we can talk about developing it.
And we'll send an email out end of this week or
Yeah.
early next week. End of
Yeah.
this week, you'll see it. Yeah, it goes out to members of the council and supervisors and mayors, obviously. Anything else on that?
No, thank you.
Moving on to other old businesses. Brian, key notices of funding availability, or you think you touched on
Yeah,
this?
this is the link I was referring to earlier. This link goes directly to the US Department of Transportation, and we provide this link on our webpage now under funding opportunities. So the latest, and I think I should say our partners at Federal Highway and Federal Transit Administration have been doing a very good job in providing Lots of information to interested parties regarding these new programs. It's been a lot for everyone to handle, but they have webinars usually are associated with every new program. And there's usually lots of good FAQs under each new program.
Just I'm gonna remind you, Brian, carbon reduction funding.
Yeah, we do. Thank you. The MPOs for under the bipartisan infrastructure law were provided direct allocation through the carbon reduction program. This is a 5-year funding of roughly, I believe, I'm sorry, I don't have the table in front of me, but it was roughly for the Ulster County Transportation Council, $200,000 per year over the course of 5 years. So we have just short of $1 million allocated directly to the NPO for use toward the carbon reduction program. So any projects, which could include a variety of capital projects or planning projects, as long as it conforms to the rules of the program, those funds are now available to the Transportation Council. We have not discussed programming these funds in any detail at this point in time. The New York State DOT is required to prepare a carbon reduction plan. That's a statewide plan. Once that plan is approved, all projects from the MPOs must be in conformance with that plan. We have no reason to believe at this point in time, based on the committees that I sit on, that the New York State DOT would go far afield of what's written in the under the current rules. The types of projects, capital projects that could be approved is essentially any project that would be eligible under the Transportation Alternatives Program, which has traditionally been used for non-motorized projects, would be eligible. Projects for electric vehicle charging infrastructure would be eligible.
Congestion management,
Congestion management,
signal optimization.
traffic signal optimization would be eligible. To the extent that the traffic signal optimization could reduce emissions from idling vehicles and reduce delay along our roadways. Those are the types of projects that would be eligible. $1 million is not significant. It's not insignificant, but it's not a huge amount of money. When you think about the new signal system on Broadway, that include, I think, at a minimum 4 new traffic signals. They had a grant through NYSERDA that provided over $800,000. I believe they needed additional funds for their traffic signal system.
But as people start to think about programs or planning studies with respect to the UPWP update, just keep in mind that you have this source of funding here right now, so that when you finish your study, you may be able to essentially move it right to a source of funding within the MPO that it controls, as compared to essentially finishing a study and then looking at a tip update or a tip change, where effectively you're going to wait a number of years in order to get that study program.
The NPOs have a lot of flexibility with regard to how we choose to program these funds. As long as we follow our own tip guidance, I think that's essentially the only requirement. We have been also talking with our partners at the Mid-Hudson Valley Transportation Management Area to see if there might be opportunities to do a regional project, working and pooling our funding to do potential some sort of regional effort. So that's being discussed. I think at the end of the day are in no rush to spend these dollars. We want to make sure that they're used wisely and appropriately. So we will continue to make our members aware. And when the time comes, we'll outline, I think, a method for utilization of these funds before they're actually programmed for any specific use.
Thanks, Brian. I'm going to ask you to take something out of order and just do project updates now, particularly with the question we got with respect to the Route 9W study.
Yeah, sure. We have a number of projects that are underway presently. The first one is the Ulster County Transportation Vulnerability Assessment This has been a 14-month effort that is coming to a close. We have been doing, it's essentially a desktop effort to take a look at the entire, all of our transportation infrastructure and narrow down to the most essential facilities, which include public roads and public bridges, and compare the threats to those facilities over a different incremental planning horizons. We use 2030 and 2050 as our planning horizons, looking at the primary threats of flooding and excessive heat and what those impacts would have on specific facilities. We are able to, again, it's a desktop methodology. It uses the Federal Highway Vulnerability Assessment Framework to do this assessment.
When you expect to finish up, Brian?
And we expect to finish that assessment by, I
End
would
of year?
hope to have a, yes, by the end of the year.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And
And-
to the question that was raised earlier regarding the 9W Corridor Management Plan, that project is underway. We had our initial kickoff meeting with the Technical Advisory Committee in mid-August, which essentially discussed the project schedule with our Technical Advisory Committee, which was selected by UCTC and the town of Ulster. It includes NISDOT representatives, as well as members of the business community and town planning board of the town of Ulster. There will be a protracted public engagement process, including a mix of in-person and virtual meetings, as well as focus groups and face-to-face interviews regarding users of the corridor. The specific methodology has not been determined yet, but we are looking at a wide range of methods to engage the public to get their opinion on the corridor. We're particularly interested in the opinions of employees who work and commute within the corridor, but of course, all users and needs of all users of the corridor will be addressed through the study. As Tanya indicated, one of the primary reasons we needed to initiate the study was because it was identified through our congestion management process, the high priority location. But we're looking at all variety of transportation issues and needs.
So we
within
can
the
ensure
corridor.
everybody that there is a bicycle ped component.
There certainly is a
you.
non-motorized community.
Any other project updates besides the resolutions we just adopted, which is the rail safety study?
Doing a lot of talking.
Okay,
I also mentioned the website update. That RFP will be issued on Friday, on Thursday. So we will be updating the UCTC website, reorganizing it, making it more accessible, and I would hope easier to navigate for members of the public.
and we have traffic count information coming back, is that correct?
Traffic counts, yeah, we processed the counts. I need to submit invoicing to the vendor, and I believe their contract is up, so we're gonna be looking at doing a new contract piggybacking off of Dutchess County issued a call for or an RFP for a new traffic count contractor, so we'll be looking to piggyback off of that contract once we get a vendor selected.
And then one update with respect to not a study, but an actual project is the Shandaken Rail Trail. We did do a call for expressions of interest for the LDSA list for consultants. We do have responses to that. We have not yet begun our analysis of those responses to choose a consultant. So we would expect to have a consultant engaged in that by the end of the year or early next year. And that would be a preliminary design work, right away incidentals for that particular project. And that's a $4.9 million grant coupled with a $4.9 million grant coupled with a local match for that
No,
particular.
it's $3.9 million.
I'm sorry, yeah, it's 4.9
The
total.
total
You're right.
project.
I apologize. Thank you. Coupled with a local. 4.9 total. Anything else? So I did promise that we would have a closing public comment. Are there any public comments before we close the meeting?
Do you mind if I make a follow-up comment?
Sure.
Okay, so along with the congestion management in the name of carbon reduction is so extremely problematic. We're incentivizing driving even more in the name of congestion reduction. Incentivized demand really has to be recognized. And the Broadway Streetscape is a prime example of that. We have signalization that was paid for as carbon reduction from NYSERDA by way of congestion management. And we've got fed buttons now all up and down a pedestrian corridor, not all pedestrian, it's not a pedestrian only corridor, but this is a large percentage of the population who lives there don't own cars. And it's the bridge between downtown and uptown. And so in order, if you get to the signal, you get to the corner and you've missed if the light is just changing for the vehicular traffic going in the same direction, you're out of luck. As a pedestrian, you're further disadvantaged. You're already disadvantaged because you don't own a car. But now you're put at a disadvantage because you have to stop, press the button, wait for a whole signal to cross the street. Pedestrians should be encouraged to walk. Pedestrians don't want to stop and go. They should be allowed to keep going. Vehicles are already a vehicle. You know, it's a matter of seconds per vehicle, but it's a matter of many minutes per pedestrian. And so this congestion reduction in the name of carbon reduction is just so problematic. And I really hope that the council can start hiring consultants or looking towards consultants that really understand the impact of induced demand for traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Anyone else?
Next time I will do my homework beforehand, and I will understand what you discussed before. Thank you for letting me know about the website. As far as traffic safety, there was recently an accident by building near, I believe near Walmart, where a pedestrian who's trying to cross the street couldn't because you have to run. I've seen other pedestrians doing that. And unfortunately, this pedestrian, there's consideration of charging the pedestrian who tried to run across the street where there are no signs, where there are no lights, and he's going to be charged. I mean, it's true that the 9W area, that area is very dark and design, but the idea of charging the pedestrian who's trying to cross the street to get them to Walmart, it's just insane. So I don't know how that fits in with this law, like I said, I'm kind of in my head.
Thank you. Barbara?
Question. Why are we not addressing, going back to the rail and the crossing, why are we not addressing it across the county? You have a little bit in Kingston, a little bit in Surtees, a little bit in that. It's almost like we're putting the towns against each other. Why are we not putting a united front and doing the whole thing? Is it just that it's impossible, it's too big a project or whatever? But to me, it sounds like the problem is countywide. It's not just, yes, it's on my road or it's on your road or Brook Crossing or whatever, but the whole thing is CSF and the rail. Why are we not trying to get a countywide study, or is that, or maybe it hasn't been done? I have no idea.
The focus of the Kingston study was on pedestrian, although there is some work relative to vehicle. But the city has done a substantial amount of work on the vehicle work. So the focus on this study is on pedestrian work. That's the one thing. And as you know, we did do some work with respect to the studies in Saugerties relative to the safety issues associated with the crossings there. So we've looked at them. It's not that we haven't looked at them. If we have looked at them, it's literally trying to find the necessary funding to fix what we've looked at right now. Anybody online?
We have several comments online. I'm going to start with Cheryl. She did have her hand up early on, so I'm going to ask her to unmute here.
Hi, thank you. I think the people who need to be the pedestrians, the bike riders, the public transit riders need to have a seat at the table, not just be asked for their comments and feedback to stuff that's designed without them. And ultimately they don't have a say. Because if we're talking about pedestrian traffic, how many of you here don't use a private car? So I think that that's number one. We need public transit first. You put more people, if we have better public transit, you wouldn't have people trying to cross those crazy roads to begin with. And yeah, people need to have a seat at the table. And the other thing about safety and pedestrian crossings, why is it that we're expending our tax dollars? I mean, whether you get them for the state or the feds, it's our tax dollars. Why are we spending our money to do what's actually incumbent upon a private corporation, CSX, to provide that infrastructure of safety? If people are trespassing on their property, they should be doing it. Why are we using our money? The other thing I want to say is it is a total lie. It is a scam to call charging stations, electric charging stations, a green alternative. It is environmental violence in the communities where those power plants are still producing filthy, disgusting, life-stealing toxins to produce the power that goes on the grid to charge those charging stations so rich people can drive around gas without having to pay for gas. I think it's a scam. I think it's a ripoff, and I think it's violence against the community. Thank you.
Cheryl. Any other comments, Ellen?
Yes, we do have one comment from Ella. I'm going to ask her to unmute here, I think. Wait, hang on. There it is. Still muted. There we go.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Ella. I'm using my phone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, coming through
Yeah.
great.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. I have a little cold or something. So, but I just wanted to speak on kind of to support what everyone else has been saying about the bus system. And, you know, I think that really does need to be a priority to make that a functional system that people can use, and, you know, not just a system that people who have no other choice, but also people who, you know, people can decide whether they want to drive their car, take the bus, bike, etc. I also wanted to talk about the person who was hit by a car, and according to the Daily Freeman, I don't really know like further details other than what I've read in the newspaper, but a few weeks ago, excuse me, the person who was crossing 9W, and I think someone else might have been talking about it before, but I couldn't honestly hear very well. So, excuse me. So this person was crossing 9W, and they were hit and broke a leg. And according to the newspaper, they may be facing charges for failure to yield the right of way. I think that basically, I think that's a major problem, and I think it's really absurd in a lot of ways, considering I went to that particular intersection. There's no safe way to cross it. But, you know, meanwhile, we have people who, you know, need to go to Walmart, need to go to Target, people who might be working at those stores and not making a living wage, not being able to afford a car, and not having a bus system that is reliable and has an adequate schedule to provide adequate access to those places.
Thank you, Carol. You have something else?
And sorry?
Do you have something else?
Yeah, that was the main thing. I think I also wanted to mention, so I feel actually guilty about this, that I haven't, I didn't bring this to anyone's attention before, but I did find that the crosswalk on 9W, I think it's the only crosswalk in that section, is broken at Massa Ave. So it's one side is Boise's Lane, I think one side's Massa Ave. So that crosswalk is broken. you kind of just have to, I tried crossing it myself. It was very treacherous. So I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware of that, and hopefully that can be fixed too. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Carol. Anyone else? Hearing none. Motion to adjourn. Mr. Pine. Do I have a second? Leanne, you're seconding this, right? Thank you. So we stand adjourned, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.